I'm Batman, and I'm Batman.
Alright, so today we're talking about LEGO Batman, Legacy of the Dark Knight. I haven't played a LEGO game since the first LEGO Batman back in 2008, but when I saw this game had Arkham style combat, I knew it'd be special. This game is also a great send-up to all the movies, and also has some references to the Arkham games and TAS. Before we get started though, I do have to clarify, this isn't fully an Arkham game, gameplay wise, and it isn't trying to fully be an Arkham game. It simply has a lot of similarities, but again, at the same time, I am naturally going to compare it to the Arkham games, because they're the most prevalent Batman games, and there is still a lot of clear influence in the gameplay, even if it's not a 100% replication. There were some Rocksteady employees who helped with the development, but that still doesn't make it an Arkham game. And another thing is that I'm going to be reviewing this as an adult. I'm not going to think too much about what a child will think about this, because since I'm an adult, I can't really actually know what a child will think about it. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's dig into the gameplay. The Arkham gameplay is more so Arkham-like gameplay, but as someone who's desperate for more Arkham combat at all, I'll definitely take it. Arkham Shadow did scratch the itch a bit, but it is fundamentally a bit different because it's VR. Overall, the combat is a fairly simplified version of the Arkham games. It's mainly boiled down to strike, counter, and dodge, but there are also some things that weren't in the Arkham games, like the special move build-up meter that when used can take down one regular enemy or do a lot of damage to a large enemy. You can also throw enemies after a counter or with Batman's Batclaw if you get some upgrades. And since LEGO people can't die outside of cutscenes, you can just throw people off of skyscrapers without breaking Batman's no-kill rule. Tools and gadgets in general play a big role in combat, with each character having two unique gadgets outside of Nightwing and Robin, who are the same character in this game. There's no Tim Drake. Robin just becomes Nightwing without getting a replacement Robin, which was probably to make the story simpler, but it was kind of disappointing. Gameplay wise, Nightwing is basically just better Robin with electric weapons for the most part. Overall, most of the gadgets are pretty good. Some standouts are Catwoman's attack cats, Batgirl's drone, and Nightwing / Robin has a remote claw from Arkham Origins, which is still fun. Before we get into the rest of it, check this out. What Happens After Midnight, my action survival horror game, is available right now. You're sent to investigate the town of Night Vale and quickly find out interdimensional forces are invading our world. Hop between worlds, meet strange characters, and survive cosmic horrors once you find out what happens after midnight. Also, any feedback is greatly appreciated. On to the topic of stealth, it's extremely basic. There's not many situations where you're set up to do stealth, and there's no real incentive to do it either, because gun guys don't do more damage than melee guys. Now, this is something that I am actually willing to accept, because it is mostly geared toward kids, and kids aren't gonna do stealth, they're just gonna rush in immediately. The enemies are the basic Arkham lineup: shield guys, electric baton guys, gun guys, big guys. The bosses are actually fairly good in both spectacle and gameplay, but they do feel a bit samey. But to be fair, they're honestly a bit better than a fair few of Arkham's boss fights. Also, fair warning, we get cheated out of a real Deathstroke fight for a second time.
And you're going down, Batman.
What's our plan?
Survive. You can't escape it!
Combat overall is relatively easy, even on hard mode as an adult, so don't go in thinking you're gonna get a challenge Not that I think someone would. The cape gliding is decent. It's more simplified than I would prefer. You do still have the ability to grapple boost over ledges, but you can't cape dive to gain momentum, and the system overall feels less fluid and natural. One interesting thing is that you can dodge while gliding by pressing Y, which is interesting, but it's never tutorialized or used, so I'm guessing something was cut. The vehicles are good and fun to drive, and they all have rockets and a grapple with limited use, and there's a pretty wide collection of many different land vehicles from across Batman's history that are fun to collect. When it comes to puzzles, they're a bit simple. Again, it's for kids, but they're alright. But to be fair, there are a few that get you to think outside the box and provide some challenge. Moving on, there are some good gameplay, cinematic set pieces. The Dark Knight truck chase was a particular standout. The open world is fairly good, with a lot of different places to see, things to do, and puzzles to solve. But when it comes to story-based side missions, there's not a ton of those really, and the gameplay that is there for those is pretty similar between missions, which is a bit disappointing. But when it comes to being a collectathon, this game definitely provides. There's a ton of costumes, upgrade points, trophy pieces, and that type of thing to collect. When it comes to the skills and upgrades, they're alright. I do have two main complaints though. Some basic things like the inverted takedown and doing a takedown while gliding have to be unlocked, which is annoying. And there's also the fact that story missions force you to use one side character as Batman's sidekick most of the time. Each chapter discourages you from spending gadget upgrade points on anyone else other than Batman. The story is fairly good and really works as a way of combining all of Batman's lore into one story, from the beginning of his life until him having the full Bat family all together. It works for the most part, but it does feel like they rushed certain plot points. I do wonder how well someone who knows little to nothing about Batman would follow along. That being said, I really liked how many Batman stories are represented here, and I only wish there were more references to the stories of the Arkham games and the animated series. Being a LEGO game, there is a lot of humor. Some of it's a bit kiddie, like the two music parts, but for every kiddie joke, there's also a joke that only adults are gonna catch, like the penguin saying,
So anyway, I started blasting.
and there's also some bits that probably work for both kids and adults.
You wanna get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. I do love a throwback, but I'm allergic to nuts.
Now, one thing that bothered me in the story was the kid censorship. I'm not saying there should be like blood and guts and stuff, but I think kids can handle a little more. For one thing, when I was a kid, the Lego guns resembled real guns. Like in this one, there's some sort of water pistol. And as a side note, I don't like the double standard when it comes to guns. Melee weapons and explosions are also violent, arguably more. Some people might try to argue that they're used more often, but melee weapons and explosions do play a pretty significant part in crime. But moving on, the thing that bothered me the most was Dick's parents not dying. Bruce's parents still die. It's not explicitly shown or stated, but it does happen, so I don't get why it doesn't happen to Dick's parents. It's part of the story and a significant part of why Batman takes him under his wing. I know it's kind of stupid to complain about the story and censorship of a LEGO game, but it still kind of bothers me. Now onto the aesthetics. They're pretty good. Not as good as the Arkham games aesthetics, but better than Gotham Knights. It has a lot of that classic layers of history, the present built on the past, and the future is built on the present. You can see it in most representations of Gotham, but it was really perfected in the Arkham series, and you see a bit of it here. I also like how they brought back the giant statues of the Burton era, and it's also good that there's a lively civilian presence. And since you can't kill anyone, even when you're ramming their car with the tumbler, the devs don't have to work around that. The only issue I really have with the aesthetics is that across the 4 islands, it's a bit samey. Other than as you go north, there's more modern buildings. I think Arkham did a better job with this. They provide more landmarks and distinct areas. To be fair, it was a smaller map. When it comes to the original music, only some of the original music is there from the movies and other sources, but they did do a pretty good job of making sound-alikes that captured the spirit of the original songs. Lastly is the technical stuff. Apparently this game has quite high PC specs, but on console it was fine for me. At least while on performance mode I didn't test out quality. There were a fair few bugs for me though. Luckily nothing game breaking. The most common thing was being endlessly pulled into a wall while grappling. Canceling out of the grapple would fix it, but that should happen automatically, or you should jump off the wall or something. I think it's mainly due to the fact that you can change your grapple point mid-grapple, which is a good ability. They should just have come up with a better solution for when you hit a wall. One last thing is some animations and voice lines don't have a lot of variations, like there only being 2 to 3 large enemy takedown animations, or 2 to 3 voice lines per character when you hit something in the car, things like that. Overall, this is a pretty good game that ties all the stories of the Batman movies together and has a lot of respect for the entire franchise and brings back some elements of the Arkham games, is gameplay and aesthetics back to life. And I'm giving this game a 9.08. Thank you to anyone who likes, comments, or subscribes. That's it.